you know what? It feels kind of weird. I'm currently sat in the parking space I used to always sit in. It had my name on it. I basically reserved this parking space when I was in a job a full year ago. I was probably still in that job. I might have just left. But I was, yeah. But not my last job, the job before. And we're heading into Bath for a meeting. The bus has just arrived, so let's go. I'm a little bit early, 45 minutes early to be precise, so I'm going to go to a different cafe, to the cafe that I'm actually meeting this guy in, and get myself a drink. I've got my laptop, so I'm going to smash through some work while I'm there as well. Living the dream, mate. The queues into Bath for the Christmas market are insane. It's like, well, what time is it? 10 o'clock? No, it's not. It's 10 past 11. And the bus to get into the city centre, there's a queue like all the way. It's almost like it's commuter time. And this car park looks goddamn full as well. God damn it. Interesting meeting with my man, with my boy. Time to go home, to be honest. Time to go home, have some lunch, get some work done before we're heading back out again tonight. Trying to figure out whether or not to drive into town tonight rather than bus. It's cheaper to drive and park. So I think I'll probably do that, to be honest with you. It's a tad early for lunch, but we're gonna have it anyway. Yeah, interesting conversation with my boy. He is someone who is an expert at getting grant funding for research projects, and he is going to help me kind of get ready for that and or apply for some things like that. So it's going to be good fun. Some takeaways, some interesting takeaways from it. I don't know what that video is. I don't want to watch. So yeah, I need to do some stuff. Again, I'm not really sure how cut out I am for that kind of world, of like investor world and stuff. It's odd to me. But he was really nice and he's got like some good tips and stuff. And yeah, it's one of them things where it's like, obviously my time is relatively limited, and any time I spend doing things like that is time spent not getting a product out the door, and the sooner I get a product out the door, the better. And that's always been the flip in my head of like how much time is worth spending working on Red Spider versus other things. It's odd. It's also the fact that like the route to market seems much easier if I go down the consultancy route and then kind of bootstrap Rad Spider's development rather than go the investment route, which is like more complicated to do and stuff. You know, that's just what I'm thinking about. Anyway, let's make a sandwich, have some lunch, and then we'll get into some work after that. I'm not sure how much I'm trying to talk myself out of going to this thing this evening. But I really don't feel very well. Kind of feel like a bit like off, like kind of not well, a little bit queasy. To be honest with you, I think it's the amount I've spent all morning in cafes. So I'd like a horrendously tasting cup of tea for prep. Don't know why I even did that. I should have just got a cold drink. I don't know why I got a hot drink. I didn't get a hot chocolate for some reason, so I got a tea instead. Why is tea so expensive in a cafe? It's literally just hot water in a tea bag, you know? Is it because like you could sell a cup of tea for 50 pence, easy, and still make a shit ton of money, right? But is it because then people would stop buying coffees because they just have tea instead? I don't know. Either way, it wasn't even very nice. It was like really like, had like a really weird aftertaste to it. Wasn't a fan. Wasn't PG tips, was it, boys? But anyway, a combination of that and like going to another cafe. I had an iced tea from that place because I was like, I need a cold drink. You know when I have a cup of tea and it makes me feel a bit ill. So I had a cold drink. But then now I'm like, kind of feel a bit off, you know? I just don't feel like I'm in the mood to go to a networking event. It's one of those ones where it's like 3 people having a conversation and people watching, and it's about like taking an idea and creating a business out of it, which doesn't feel all that relevant, but it's networking and I should go, especially considering that tomorrow we've got something a lot less structured. The thing is, I think playing on my mind is, if I go to it and because I go to these things and they either go really well or they really go really shit. If it goes really shit, it's going to really put me off going to tomorrow, and that's like a Christmas meal thing, which I want to go to. So, but I don't know if I'm just making excuses at this point. But with you, I've just been doing some programming. I've taken all the notes down from the meeting that I had earlier, all the action points I need to look at / get more information for. Laura's not. Laura's got a work do Christmas drinks tonight. Her boss's house, so she's not going to be back later. It's also figuring out how to get there. It starts at 6:45 officially. I'm really not feeling it. I'm just not feeling like I'm in the mood, you know? But you just gotta fight through that shit, you know, sometimes. But I'm just feeling like my time, and because I'm going down to, it's also because I'm going down tomorrow that I'm like, I could just not go down today, and then I can definitely go down tomorrow, because I've already been out and about quite a lot today. Ugh. I'm just not feeling it. You should make yourself do things you don't want to do. But also, you got to do things you don't want to do, because you got to get outside your comfort zone every now and again, you know? I feel like I'm successfully talking myself out of it. So, we'll see how I feel in a couple of hours. But I say a couple of hours. If I'm driving in, I've got to leave here about 5. I mean, even that's pretty shit. If I'm busting in, I have to leave here about 5 as well. It's a lot of effort. This does feel like something that I'm going to for no real benefit, you know? Like, I'm not expecting much of a benefit out of it, so why do it? Maybe my time is best invested. I've got another thing, so I've got a thing tomorrow, which is my Christmas dinner. I've got another thing next week, which is a agile group, which I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be really interesting. It's just, this thing's just not, it's not tickling my funny bone, you know what I'm saying? I've successfully taught myself out of it, boys. I'm just taking a bit of a break off of programming. I have this one test that just randomly fails. Like, it's not consistent failure, it's just randomly failing. And it's end substitute just failing because it can't generate the mock. And I have no idea why. It's like, it's really, really annoying. It's probably some threading issue. But I have no idea how to track it down. The confusing thing is it's always the same test. It's not like just a random test. It's always the same test. It's always the same error. And it says like I'm using the mock invalidly. But I'm not using the mock invalidly. It's legit. And the test passes like 9 out of 10 times. Normally when things like that happen, it is something to do with async. It's almost like it's almost like it's disposed of the object when it tries to create the mock, which infers that there's something afoot with that test, and I just don't know what it is. Like I said, I think I've taught myself out of going out to this thing later. I think I would be going essentially just for the sake of going, and I could have a much more productive evening on my own. Boys, I've gone off the rails. I need to get back on the rails. I'm gonna have some food. I'm going to get into some work. I have just not been in the zone today at all. It's not good at all. So let's get going again. We're having cheese, beans and egg on toast. I've picked up the pace a bit, boys. I've just had a solid hour and a bit of programming, and I'm about to sit down to a load more as well. And Google, I'm not talking to you. Leave me alone. I'm going to watch The Apprentice while I do this last little chunk. I realised I was getting really warm upstairs, and I've realised that the heating comes on in the evening, which is unnecessary because it's just me. Laura's the only person that gets cold. God damn, it's even in here as well, which is the cold room that no one's in. So obviously it's not going to turn itself off. Jeez Louise. But yeah, I'm sat there and I'm like, God, I'm getting warm. And I've got my thick hoodie on. Mildly warm, like lukewarm hot water bottle on my lap. And the heater is just like, jeez Louise. Got step 1 of the multi-step process that I'm about to run. So basically, an event gets raised, consumed by my service, which then triggers a command to go and link it to your existing settings. If your settings are valid or not, it will then raise another event, which will tell the other services whether or not it's going to do anything. So it will say, if your snapshot's not valid, if it can't run the processing on that snapshot for whatever reason, it'll raise an event and that will kill the services in the other services. The processes in the other services that are tracking snapshots at least. If it's successful, it bounces back to the service. What's the word? The Saga state machine. Well, in both scenarios it does this. It either marks it as invalid and then rolls, or it rolls through and then goes through all of the updated files within the snapshot and triggers an event on each one of those, well, a command, to analyze all of those to figure out whether or not it can find possible things to test. And that's what I'm about to do next. And that's why this whole thing is so big. Like, this first step could have been split, but then like writing an automation test for it would have been a bit stupid because it's not going to stop. Like, this full process isn't going to stop until I've generated all these possible changes. But I don't even know how valuable that is because it involves like downloading streams from blob storage, which, yeah, I feel like this is going to be one of the things that just doesn't get automation tested, which is a shame because there's a lot of stuff in there, but it's going to be such a faff. Maybe I hand crank some files and host them in a mock repository like I do, but it would involve hand cranking some C# files to feed it for the automation tests, which I feel like that's a bit aggressive, but I've got time for it. You never know. In short, I'm not really sure when Laura's coming back, so she could be coming. She's got work tomorrow, but it's a work do, and I'm not really sure what times she normally tries to leave. The problem is I'm half an hour away, if not more, so she needs to give me like lots of heads up before she does want to go. Usually these things get a little bit messy. She's been to them before, and I've been told I've been driving back too erratically. Bearing in mind, there's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, so I'm not sure how erratic you can be at 20 miles an hour. But she was a bit fragile, a bit worse away, you know? Yeah, so basically I have until she calls in a lift to get work done. And then I've got all of tomorrow until the evening. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't go to that thing. I definitely wasn't in the right state of mind for it. Basically, I would have just gone and hated it. So I'm glad I backed out. I don't normally say that. I normally hate myself for backing out. So, but I'm back. I'm out of it now. I'm out of my little rut. You go through those every now and again. All right, boys. I'm calling it for a night. I'm gonna go and play Formula 1 for a bit. I need to map out models now for the next bit. This is where all the fun stuff is. I've got events that need to be raised, commands that need to be sent, data store in the database, contracts for the repositories to be designed. Got lots of fun stuff to do, you know? My mind is not in the right place to do that shit now. So I'm gonna play some Formula 1. Well, literally as I said that, I got a message from Laura. I want to pick up one in a lift, so that's what I'm gonna do. So much for games. We had an early start to our morning today. We had to get up and out to vote before Laura went to work. So we're smashing it out of the park. Basically, as the polling station opened, we're there, dipping in that vote, boys. I like voting, man. It makes me feel like an adult, you know. I just like saunter down to the polling station, have my little say, put my little say in the box. I don't want to get political either, but like my opinion on, in general, voting is like balls to all this tactical stuff. It really bugs me that all this tactical voting stuff is a thing this year. I really don't remember it being a thing in previous years, but like, I genuinely believe that like effectively every vote has a say, and what you shouldn't do is vote for a party that you don't agree with just because it might help a party you don't agree with get in, because you haven't really done anything there. What you should do is you should vote for the party with the policies you want, because even if they don't win, even if they don't get close, the other parties, the two big parties, will take their policies and do them because there's a fucking mandate for it. That's how do you think Brexit even happened in the first place? If the votes didn't matter, then if every single vote didn't matter because they would never win, then all of those votes for UKIP wouldn't have turned into a Brexit referendum, you know? It's shit like that. So it's things like, what's the other example where one of the smaller parties, it's probably a couple of years ago when Lib Dems took out a policy which people voted for, then Labour and Conservatives had to take it on. Because that's how it works. So I really like that kind of shit. Even if you're in a safe seat, which I am definitely in a safe seat, so. Anyhow, yeah boy, there's no one here, yeah, so for example, right, Oh no, I'm just nice. So it's not irrelevant. So anyway, we went out. Both me and Laura left early AF to go vote. Came back. It was chucking it down with rain. And since then, I've been looking at defining the workflow for my next little bit. I think I'm going to introduce another saga just for bands, just because fucking YOLO swags, you know. I've got like a significant number of events. It's bouncing down outside. Holy shit. I've got a significant amount of things that all need to be done, and they should be done behind separate events because I need them to happen. So that's where I'm at, basically. It's going to be a goddamn hoot. So effectively, again, like, I'm doing this Kanban as fuck. I'm not really doing it. I've actually just merged a load of code. Even though I'm, in theory, would only merge when a user story is done, I'm like halfway through the user story, I've merged it because I'm going to get so much more code in, and I don't want to have a huge code review. So first bit's in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to send all the files in and then figure out which ones are valid for analysis. And then for each one of those, I'm going to generate some settings, an object for that, and then track that object state through a saga. And then that saga is going to do some stuff, you know? It's going to do some stuff. But yeah, it's because there's like a number of things I need to do that line up with each individual like thing that's tested, that don't necessarily line up with the snapshot that's being tested. And if I didn't raise if I didn't raise a saga to track all of this stuff, I'd end up trying to do too much in one command, and then like I'd end up with a command that has a load of information in it that nothing really cares about except this one thing over there which would care, and that would be the saga's job to trigger when it needs it. So that's my plan. It's going to be great. It's just going to be, there's going to be a lot of shit. It's going to take me so fucking long, man. But one of the fun things I've got to do is translate this information effectively, although hopefully not, the contents of a file. I've got to get that transferred over message buses, which is not going to be fun. Hopefully I can avoid doing the whole file that's being tested. But because I'm going to be limited by effectively writing some kind of PowerShell script that will be able to do the kind of analysis it needs to do on specific items within the file. But yeah, anyway. What's interesting is obviously I have the older versions of the application back before it was a web app to kind of go off of, and there's a couple of design choices I made then because performance was more important to me. Like, performance is less important now because I've got scale, for one. But also because I'm behind other asynchronous processes. So previously it was quite a sequential thing. It was multi-threaded, but it was sequential, if that makes sense. Whereas this is like fully asynchronous. A long running process kicks off here, and a load of stuff can get calculated before that finishes. So because of that, I'm able to go for more resiliency, which is essential, really. And yeah, because I've got this kind of scale that I didn't have previously when it was running in a single application, it means I can like vamp up this stuff. I can have this thing put 20 messages on the bus and do it in 20 separate messages rather than just doing it in one, because I've got the scale to handle it. So it's exciting stuff, man. It's exciting stuff. But yeah, it's interesting seeing how my approach is differing this time. Obviously knowing everything that I know now and in a different architecture. You know what I was talking about the other day? It might have been yesterday, but it might have been in the previous video about when third-party APIs like make testing just a pain in the ass. Azure Blob Storage, it's a bitch. I was just plumbing in the APIs so that I can wrap around it and add a repository in, and I'm like, I wonder if I could mock out this thing here as a like just mock the accounts. Like, in theory it's possible because everything on it is virtual, so it's possible. I can do it, except in the constructor it does a validation check on a URI which needs to be valid and needs to be able to connect. Why? Why make it all virtual then? What's the point? Why doesn't it have an interface? God Fucking damn it, man. It pissed me off. It makes me so goddamn angry. Oh, Lord. Ugh. That's what I used to work with. Made a wrapper for Dapper. It was called the Dapper wrapper. I wonder if I could do that. Oh, it's just, there's nothing clever about it though, is there? Ugh. God damn. Just mock out the repository. It's a bit of a bitch because like, it's just what I'm doing, what I'm interacting with is a pain in the ass. Like there is going to be some logic in the repositories for it because I'm going to do some caching stuff. I want to test it ideally, but I can't. And I've not come to terms with the fact that I can't yet. I've come to terms with the fact that I can't test the Mongo stuff. But I haven't come to terms with this. And it's pissing me off. What's annoying is, I just did a load of stuff just trying to spin it all up and I was like, just run the test, see if it works, because it takes them all in as the constructor. I've got a hot water bottle underneath my thing. I've not just gained a stone, by the way. Fucking bugs upstairs anyway. Yeah, so I did all this work and I was like, just press play just to make sure it like binds, you know, make sure all the configuration's all set up properly and that every single test fails because it throws an exception because the URL isn't valid. Ooh. Just give me an interface, Microsoft. Give me a goddamn interface. You piss me off. What it's doing to me is it's making me think whether or not it's worth creating something that will make this easier. Like, is it worth the amount of time it would take me to write a little NuGet package that adds some kind of wrapper interface and simplifies the interaction with DI? Is it worth that? Versus working with it in a complicated way and not having that flexibility? Is it worth it? I don't know. I don't think it is. Doesn't scream worth it to me. The truth of the matter is, what I'm trying to tackle is too big a piece of work for me to hit in one chunk, and it's like daunting, and it like ticks your brain, you know, it like gets in at your noggin and makes you not want to do it. Oh. Right, that's work for the day. I've got stuff in theory downloading from blob storage, going through a memory cache and then working out through that kind of stuff. Happy days. I'm doing all of the plumbing basically before I actually wire it all together. Otherwise, it's time to get ready. We're going out. We're going for our Christmas dinner with the Freelance, what's it called? The co-working group. There's like 29 of us going. I've been to one of these things 3 times. And not really spoken to anyone massively. It's going to be really weird. It's going to be properly out my comfort zone. But I've already paid a deposit, so I can't not go now. Yeah, we've just like booked out a pub like a normal company would, basically. But there's a load of people that all are like, why am I getting pants? I'm wearing pants now. But there's a load of people who are all like freelancers or people who work from home a lot. And then it's like a group of people who all like meet up and do work together. I don't usually go because it's in cafes and stuff and I can't afford to just eat lunch and drink in a cafe all day. That's the main reason. But if I'm in town for a meeting, then I'll sometimes, 3 times, link up with them. Right. Let's get ready to rumble. They're meeting in half an hour, but we don't eat for 2.5 hours. So I'm like, I'm taking it slow, you know. I'm fashionably late. So that thing I went to yesterday was really good fun. I actually really enjoyed it. I was there for a long time as well. I think I got there about 7:30-ish. We didn't really eat until about 9, and then like we left at just gone 11. So it was like a proper like long night. As I walked in, I realised I walked into a bar to go and like socialise with a load of people that kind of half know each other. Like there are people who know each other, but I don't know anybody. And like as I walked in, I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to yourself? It was going to be horrendous." And like I got a drink, and then I kind of like found it awkward to start the first conversation. But as soon as I got into it, I was quite good at it. I was quite good at like just talking to different people. I talked to like a good like 5 or 6 people around me. Just figuring out what's going on, like what they do and all this kind of stuff. I genuinely really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of surprised how naive I was going into it, thinking about what it would be. It's so different to all the other obviously networking things I've done. Because it's not a networking thing, it's like effectively a group of friends going out for a Christmas meal. But then, I'm just playing the game as I put the lids. There we go, boys. But yeah, so I actually really enjoyed it. I'm actually feel like, I've kind of always said this, I'm really shy in general. I don't like talking to people if I can avoid it, you know. But if I can't avoid it, I'm really good at putting up this like defensive kind of like skin where you would never guess that I'm really shy, you know. I kind of managed to slip into that, and to be honest with you, I could have stayed longer. I think I left because we left the place we were going, and I was getting a lift back from Laura. I could have stayed longer, but I'd kind of already spent a lot of money on. I only had 2 glasses of wine and then my meal, but it's a lot of money to me these days. And I knew that if I like drunk more, I was kind of drinking for the sake of it, you know, and I won't be able to avoid that. So I had a really good time. Would totally do it again. Loved it. Brilliant. Otherwise, today has been kind of an odd day. Laura's had the day off. It's Friday today. Laura had the day off. So I got up early, did some work before she got ready, and when she got ready we went up to the shops to go buy some last minute Christmassy stuff, and something else, I forgot what else, but some other stuff, and then we came back down here, and then I accidentally forced myself to fix some of the rendering on the back of our house, because what I did was I tried to waterproof it a long time ago, and the plastic we were using to try and waterproof some of the worst cracks had like come loose. So me taking that off ripped off like a huge chunk of it. I was like, well, fuck it. We're gonna have to try and render this now, aren't we? So I had a shot at that. And I feel like I did an alright job. We've got to like paint it with the waterproof paint tomorrow. It's gonna rain tonight, but yeah, it's a temporary fix until we get it properly fixed in summer. The problem is like the weather is just not good for it because it's either too cold or too wet, and you kind of need it to be not cold or not dry. And we like keep waiting for the best weekend. I was like, it kind of was a blessing in disguise, you know. But yeah, so in the weekend I've got to paint over it. Yeah, good fun. That's about it, to be honest with you. Otherwise, to hold my thing on the politics, the election thing, what happened? Conservative majority. I expected that to happen. I know that I've been like tracking it all on Twitter and whatnot, and Twitter is like so left leaning. I think it blindsided a load of people again. And to be honest with you, what I was expecting was the Conservatives to get a lead that they got previously with the DUP, but they didn't need the DUP anymore. You know what I mean? But they fucking landslided it, and well, landslided it. But at the event, it was ever so funny, like kind of the polls came out and like the whole pub, there was like a ripple through it, you know. It was ever so strange. But yes, it's been fun tracking the outset of that. And to my point yesterday about tactical voting, immediately people are on Twitter are being like, they're moving to the centre ground, obviously trying to figure out why Labour lost. Moving to the centre ground doesn't work. If people wanted the centre ground, they would have voted for the Lib Dems. I'm like, you can't in one breath tell people not to vote for the Lib Dems because it's technically a vote for the Tories, and in the second breath go, no one vote for the Lib Dems, therefore no one wants that either. It doesn't work like that. That's why you should always vote how you want to vote and not tactically, because what you're effectively saying is, I really like this party, they're really doing stuff, but if you constantly vote for someone else, they're going to stop doing that thing and no one else is going to pick it up, because they'll be like, well, we don't get votes for being environmentally friendly, for example, or in like UKIP and whatever's case, Brexit Party's case, we don't get votes for saying that we should leave the EU, and then as soon as they start to get votes, it happened. So next time, boys, don't fall into the trap of doing that, because it just gets used against you. So the only time you should even like consider it is if it's like a 3-horse, you know what I mean, like a 3-horse race, and you really don't like the thing. But yeah, like scenarios where you're in one seat, if you're like in a, like here is a solid it was obvious what was going to happen here. Thought twice against that. It's obvious what was going to happen here. So there's no point being tactical. There's no point being like, oh, I'm going to vote for this person because they're blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, in theory, if you vote against, yeah. You know, it's just, it bugs me. Anyway, I'm heading to bed. We've got a long weekend ahead of us. Got some DIY to do. I've got some programming to do. We've got lots of work to do. Laura's at uni. It's going to be lads weekend in, you know, it's boys wee. Cool. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.